Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Sherwood.
Here.
Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters.
Here.
Representative Swanitzer.
Here.
Chairman Nicholas.
Here. Okay, first up, we've got the legislative budget feed bill. Matt, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Obrecht and Heather Kammerman with LSO. And this is Senate File 2, engrossed copy, the biennial legislative budget bill. Mr. Chairman, I'll just start on page 1, salaries on the bottom there for LSO. And this is, section 1 is what we colloquially call the above-the-line appropriations. So these are the reoccurring expenses of the legislative branch. We've got 9.8 million for LSO staff salaries, both permanent and temporary staff for the biennium. Legislators during session, 1.15 million. Onto the top of page 2, legislators during the interim, 2.5, almost 4 million. Session staff, 650,000, and employer paid benefits, 4.786 million.
So, Matt, in terms of the salaries, just remind the committee what we've done and, if anything, how we tracked the inflationary costs that we've done for state employees.
Mr. Chairman, the Legislative Service Office has had salary increases over the last 3 to 4 years that are in line with the executive branch increases during that time as well.
What does that mean? I mean, have you gone and double-checked your classifications through A&I? Have we walked through this
Mr.
process?
Chairman, you know, we are so unique in the legislative branch on what we do and so small that we don't use comparators with the executive branch as a final determination of what the salaries would be for LSO. We use that as one. We also use what other state legislatures pay. We use what the University of Wyoming pays. We use inflationary pressures on the Cheyenne market. And we council just use what they think they need to pay to retain staff.
And so then my question is, are you comfortable with the salaries? Are you're losing positions because, like initial staffing members, or do you have the horsepower you need?
Mr. Chairman, just like the executive branch, and I think almost all public and private sector employees, LSO had an incredible rate of
Turnover.
turnover during the Great Resignation, 2020 through 2021. I think we were up to 25% of the staff or more. We have stemmed that, and I think last year we had 1 retirement and 2 separations within LSO. Management Council has been incredibly receptive during that time to not only salary increases, but also different benefit increases and work environment, flex schedules, that sort of thing, that I think has really gone to help our retention. Tamara Revele and Tanya Heitrick, I asked them in 2021 to chair a retention and recruitment committee within LSO. And that committee was made up of LSO employees from every division with, from new employees to 20 years of service with LSO. And they made a bunch of recommendations. And I'd say Management Council implemented well over 2/3 of their recommendations.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I think Representative Walters wanted to ask Mr. Obrecht what the remote work policy is for LSO.
Exactly right.
Mr. Chairman, and that is one thing that I'm really not willing to to create a remote work policy. I mean, I just think we're incredibly lucky to have this space.
Remote is the Hirschler building.
Right, that's right. That's as far as people can go. You know, we spend an incredible amount of state funds on this building. We've got the best office space in the state, and unless, you know, somebody needs to care for a sick child, they're expected really to be here at the office.
So Matt, just for purposes of floor presentation, your salaries, are they different from last biennium? Gone up, down?
Mr. Chairman, so that is all in the, in kind of my explanation sheet. If you go to page 3, you'll see the differences between the 25-26 legislative budget, and that's what we're looking at now, and the 23-24 budget. The increases for LSO compensation are $800,000 from the last budget.
And that represents what?
What percentage, Mr. Chairman?
No, just what's the 800,000? Is that more just across the board, or is that for particular positions, or?
Mr. Chairman, we did one across-the-board increase, I think, of 8% in '22, and then increases in '23 were by position and not, they were within a range.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're on in-state travel on page 2. This is both legislator and staff in-state travel. Obviously not session, not a lot of staff traveled in. 1.1 million for session travel and 1.238 million for interim travel. Out-of-state travel, 88,000 per diem, 100 and almost 19,000. Our dues,
So are those increased based upon gas prices or anything like that, or costs of everything? So
you bet, Mr. Chairman, not only, you know, mileage rate as determined by, you know, the feds, the GSA, and adopted through statute by the Wyoming legislature, but also the increased per diem rates for legislators now. And I think.
go ahead.
Things determined out-of-state travel and the dues, that's both staff and legislators.
That's true, Mr. Chairman, Representative Walters. Mr. Chairman, on kind of bottom third of page 2, line 13, our dues to the organizations in which we are a member state, NCSL, 269,000, the Energy Council, 76,000, Council of State Governments, 22.9. This other category of annual dues is not to organizations generally that we're a member to. What it really is for staff, bar dues, deans, accounting, CPA dues, the chief clerks to belong to their chief clerk organization. And I think that's about it. I think maybe whatever we pay for the National Council of Education Commission or whatever it's called.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
so would the WISTA dues be under here, Western States Transportation Association? Are we still paying those? That's part of this? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, that's right, Representative Swann.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this registration fees is really part of the out-of-state travel. This is what we'll pay for people to attend NCSL, CSG, or Energy Council events, or any other events approved by Management Council. Mr. Chairman, telecommunications, this is what we pay internally for our IT telecommunication services. On line 23 on page 2 is what we pay ETS for the services they provide us, mainly for network connections and backup. Also, I think for storage on their cloud-based service on their data centers that they use. Top of page 3, our general administrative support. You can see this $1 million for other IT services, copying, supplies, furniture, contract, really any operations is under that line item. Mr. Chairman, we used to not have to pay for our statutes that, I think we're statutorily required to buy all the statutes for every public entity in the state. It's just shy of 500 copies a year. We now,
Or a biennium, because we only print them once every 2 years, right?
right, Mr. Chairman, Representative Walters, for a biennium than with a supplement.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr. Chairman, our total above-the-line appropriation is $23,617,090. And if you go to that page 3 on the explanation sheet, you can see the difference, the total difference on the above-the-line appropriation from 23-24. It's an increase of $1.5 million, really broken out for staff salary, and per diem and employee benefits. Those are the big drivers of that difference, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, then we'll start on section 2 on page 3, line 11. These are below the line. A lot of this is just language and not actual appropriations, conditions on the appropriation. 2 is Management Council Flex Authority. Management Council can use these funds on any line item they choose. 3 is the out-of-state travel authorization for Management Council to approve out-of-state travel. This section was amended in the Senate to specify, starting on line 21, page 3, that in addition to other out-of-state travel authorized in Management Council policies, Management Council may approve out-of-state travel for legislators that furthers the interests of the state of Wyoming. This travel may include travel to meet with legislators or legislative committees from other states and travel to attend other meetings, conferences, or events that further the interests of the state of Wyoming. I really told the senators that wasn't necessary. The Management Council has done that for, the 10 years I know about it and way before then too, but they liked that language, so they decided to adopt it. Mr. Chairman, section 4 is our carryover appropriations. The first is the carryover of all the money from the 2022 feed bill. Heather says that's at somewhere now between 1.8 and 2.2 million dollars that we're carrying over. That's obviously to be used for special sessions, to retain counsel if needed, any other extraordinary expense of the legislature.
So if we end up in a special session this May, this is where the funds are come from.
That's right, Mr. Chairman, exactly.
So how much would a, let's say, minimum 3 and 5 day special session cost?
Mr. Chairman, when we had that special session in 2021, I think the total price tag for that was about $130,000.
So not that much.
No, Mr. Chairman, not that much.
And you say there's, in that fund now is about 1.8?
Well, about 1.8 to between 2.2. We just need to, we won't know that until the end of the biennium and also see how much we paid for it.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
just a clarification, because I wasn't here. So did you guys meet in person or did you meet video?
Mr. Chairman, so, we held 2 special sessions there while you were gone, Representative Wanitzer.
Okay.
One in 2020, right kind of at the height of the COVID restrictions, and we met primarily remotely, but there were members here as well.
I was here
You bet.
until Matt kicked me out because I got COVID.
All right, I was just clarifying that total figure you gave us, if there was a lot that met together. But there was
then
one of them.
When we met in 2021, Mr. Chairman, Representative Wanitzer, I think almost everybody was physically here. There were some people remote, mainly because they had COVID, or they're afraid of getting COVID. But most people were here. Mr. Chairman, on page 5, the laptops, legislators have the ability when they either leave the legislature or when we buy new laptops every 4 years to purchase their old ones. Heather says there's about $34,000 we're carrying over in that account. Mr. Chairman, on to page 5 is the IT projects. There's $150,000 appropriated for continuing IT development. This would be our legislative drafting system, the legislators' interface with that, and also other IT projects such as the voting system and other things that will need to be worked on, maybe our document management system too. Section 6 is our standard language for authorization to pay newly elected legislators-elect before they actually become legislators. And we appropriate $34,000 in that section. Mr. Chairman, on the bottom of page 7, section 7 is a $500,000 appropriation from the school foundation program account for professional consulting services. This would be for recalibration, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, section 8 is Management Council Special Contingency. We've reduced this appropriation from $500,000 to $350,000. Section 9, Mr. Chairman, is just that out of the country and out of state economic development travel. As you well know, this was used quite a bit 8 to 10 years ago for economic development travel to the Pacific Rim in conjunction with Business Council and the Governor's Office. The legislators went on that. Section 10, Mr. Chairman, is the $20,000 appropriations for members of the CapFin committee to attend the State Treasurer's Investment Conference in 2024 and 25. Section 11 is the.
Go ahead.
That was CapFin and appropriations, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, you're exactly right. I think it doesn't specify in the section who Management Council can approve, but CapFin gets the first shot at the apple, and then members of JAC.
I see.
Yeah, I think, they give us a great deal on that, they do. So section 11 is just a reduced appropriation for legislative facilities in the Capitol and Hirschler Building, $50,000 for miscellaneous furnishings, $10,000 for the room management and professional fees. Mr. Chairman, section 12, page 11 is $25,000 to pay the salary, mileage, and per diem of the legislative members of the Capitol Interpretive Exhibits and Wayfinding Subcommittee. Mr. Chairman, section 13 is $150,000 to be used for a Wyoming share to host the 2025 CSG West annual meeting in Jackson. Representative Yin is the primary sponsor for that event this time around. We were going to do it in 2020, and when Senator von Flateren and COVID canceled that, so we haven't hosted it in a while. It's in Portland this year. We're going to send some staff out there to promote the event in Wyoming in 25. Section 14, Senate added this one. This is a different sort of section. The Management Council shall only expend funds appropriated in this act to create task forces comprised of legislators and non-legislators upon a 2/3 vote of the appointed members of Management Council, finding that an emergency exists in the state of Wyoming, necessitating the creation of a task force. So, Mr. Chairman.
So all 14 is brand new.
All of it. Brand new, Mr. Chairman, from the Senate.
So what's before, it was just a majority if they chose to do it, and they could take it at any meeting.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. And just to be clear, Management Council has the statutory authority to create any select committee or other committee just of legislators to investigate any issue they want to. But this was sort of the issue of task forces that have non-legislators on it and where that authority comes from. Mr. Chairman, that's the feed bill for 2024. Heather will stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions?
Move the bill.
Move the bill. I move that we, someone move that we strike section 14, please.
Well, if we're gonna move it, then we can amend, right?
Yeah, we just moved it. We're there. Any public comment? Saying no, we'll close public comment. Motion on the bill.
Move the bill.
Move, do pass. Move and second, go ahead.
I'd like to strike section 14.
All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman, can we discuss this just for a moment? So I understand what this means. So it sounds like what this amendment would do, it would take away the authority of the Management Council to establish task forces. Is that what this does?
No, what it does is it takes it back to the status quo, is that they can do task forces, and it doesn't require 2/3 vote.
So basically, the effect is to delete the 2/3 requirement.
Right. So this is.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
The regulatory task force, basically.
And the mental health task force.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
just comment. Heather, thank you. Your job is not easy, taking care of all of our reimbursements and payments. You're very kind, very patient. We love you. Thank you for all you do. And we apologize. This is our biennial apologize for
all the things we will do in the future.
that we do wrong.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Matt, I want to understand what happens if we defeat this bill. Do you guys cease to exist at the end of June? Or do you have a contingency fund somewhere that'll allow you to continue to operate until the budget session?
So, Mr. Chairman, it's just like if you failed to pass the budget bill, that for the funding of the executive and judicial branches, there would be no funding available for those branches. If you failed to pass a feed bill, we'd have funding through June 30th, and then we wouldn't have any more funding.
And just a follow-up, what's your estimate that it would cost you guys to stay from July 1st through the beginning of the next session, dollar-wise, just to have a legal staff here?
It would be, you take 2 years and divide it by 4. So it would be.
Well, we don't have to fund all the travel, out-of-state travel for, we don't have to have furniture. I just want to keep a legal staff on board, is my question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, but I think that's right. If we've got roughly $9 million in employee compensation for the biennium, plus out of the benefits, I would say easily 85% of those are attributable to staff, not legislators. Legislators get some benefit in the form of workers' comp coverage. So you'd probably say, let's just say 12 million for a biennium for all staff. Okay. And then if it was just 9 months of that, then, 4.5.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Real rough number.
Matt, the point would be, but you'd revert probably that 9 million because you wouldn't have any staff that would just work 9 months.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Right?
Okay. Any other questions for Matt?
Question?
Roll call.
Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Aye. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters. Aye. Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye, so Matt, I do have a question. Since 14 is new language, that ought to be, in this bill, draft, it probably should have been represented as new language, underlined or skewed, right?
Mr. Chairman, it's just like the budget bill, it's non-codified, so it's all new language this
Well,
year.
what I'm wondering if, what I'd like to do is, the one that goes to the floor, just have it taken out but not stricken.
So,
Can we do that?
well, Mr. Chairman, you would just have it like any other floor amendment. It would just need to
Yeah.
have an amendment moved and.
So did they do this in committee or they do it on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, it was a second reading amendment.
Okay. Okay. You want to? I will. I can do it. I will.
Yeah, I will.
Why don't you email the explanation to all of us, though, so we- Okay, next.
7547.
Yep.
Bond.
Law enforcement retirement, come on up, Dave. Remind us what the heck we did here.
Just want to remind you what the Senate did.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is David Swindell. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Retirement System. At the dais with me is Mr. Paul Wood from Gable, Roeder Smith, our actuaries out of Denver. I believe the committee is very familiar with Paul. We have a board meeting going on right now, so he happened to be up to present to the board, so one more time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't have just a brief comment, Mr. Chairman, to thank you, thank members of this committee and the speakers on House Bill 83, which passed out of the House last night, which is a progressive bill to address rate management in the public employee plan going forward, starting in FY27. We think it's a progressive tool that may be helpful to the legislature. I was impressed with the quality of the questions from the floor and the responses from the committee both. So thank you. The topic for today, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, is the law enforcement pension plan. Just a really brief description for folks that may be listening. The law enforcement plan is the plan that we manage that covers deputy sheriffs and city police officers, as well as a few employees in the state of Wyoming, chiefly correction officers and dispatchers in the highway patrol. The largest employer in the plan is the state of Wyoming, with 571 employees out of 2,500. But it's really only 22% of the plan. This plan is 78% local. The largest employers are Laramie County, City of Casper, and Campbell County, but a lot of other smaller jurisdictions. The retiree population, just so you know.
Dave, would you email us a list of, so we can, if we're queried on the floor?
Yes, I can. This memo that I'm quoting from is a memo that was in your work packet, and I'll just resend it.
Yeah.
It's pretty handy to kind of describe the plan. There's 1,607 retirees and beneficiaries. The average annual benefit's $27,000 a year. Basic plan provisions in this retirement plan is normal retirement is age 60 or with 20 years service at any age. Early retirement is eligible at age 50. The benefits are reduced for each year short of age 60 by 5%. The highest average salary is the highest 5-year average. The benefit formula is 2.5% of highest average salary for each year of service, not to exceed 75% of highest average salary, so there's an ultimate cap. Members are vested after 4 years.
Dave, so the highest they could get on a 5-year average then would be 75% of their annual salary?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, yes, sir.
Thank you.
The rate history in this plan dates back to 2002 when it was created as a consolidation of several local pension plans. For example, the City of Cheyenne Police Department at one point had their own pension plan. And there were some employees that were in the corrections department that were in the public employee plan anyway, it was a consolidation back in 2002. The rate was established then at 8.6% of salary for the employer and 8.6% of salary for the employee, for a total of 17.2%. And that rate has not changed since 2002. The issue, of course, is if you remember Paul's classic equation, contributions plus investment earnings have to equal the benefit plus expenses. This isn't a day back in 2002 when we believed and were getting and assumed going forward 8% return on investments. And with the markets since then, the dot-com crisis, the great financial crisis, the assumed rate of return is now down to 6.8. So we're assuming less investment income. So we either have to increase contributions or we have to decrease the benefit. This committee, as part of the joint committee with the Senate, did look at, I think, 6 different benefit reduction scenarios. The issues associated with that were generally, it just takes a long time. It's not going to get us over the hump for the next 20 years because eventually, typically benefit reductions affect new employees, and so you've got to have a larger population of new employees that builds up over time to really have much impact on plan liabilities. And the other one was issues from the law enforcement community, and I think I'm aware we have quite a few people behind me from cities and counties that may want to speak on the bill. Just issues of retention and recruiting. In particular, the pension in the law enforcement arena is the highest rated benefit for recruiting and for retention. So ultimately, it was decided to go with a rate increase. The plan is about 84% funded right now. And what that means, of course, is that it's a measurement of a ratio of assets to liabilities. The actuaries calculate the present value of the future cash flows and estimated liabilities, and you compare that to the assets on hand. And we have about 84% of what we need, assuming we can earn 6.8% to fund the promises that have already been made.
What's the balance?
So it's not quite enough.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I want to make sure I heard that right, Dave. So we now assume 6% return.
6.8, sir.
6.8 return, okay.
And so anyway, the plan's about 84% funded. It's been around that, it's hung around that for a while.
How long?
But the projections are that it's going to start to go south from here at about 1% a year
So it's declining.
in decline. And so over 30 years, if nothing is done, and 30 years is a long way out, but right now the plan's 84% funded. It would start to decline at about 1% a year, and by 2054, 30 years from now, it could be as low as 55%. So the rate increase, as per the bill, would take that plan and put it on, instead of a declining trajectory, puts it on an upwards trajectory and would reach 95% in 30 years. So that's the purpose of the bill, but it costs a lot of money. This plan would be about almost 9.3 million in additional revenue per year on an annual basis. And that would be split. The counties make up about 43%, municipalities about 34%, the state of Wyoming about 21%, and just a little less than almost 1% for the University of Wyoming. The bill provides that the 5% increase will be split 2.5% to the employee and 2.5% to the employer. The bill provides an appropriation for the executive branch to pay the employer portion. We talk a little bit about subsidizing of the employee part, which has been a feature of this plan since 2002. In this plan, employers have to pay their employer share, but they are allowed to subsidize and pay part of the employee share. And that has been a feature in the state of Wyoming for state of Wyoming employees since plan inception. Unlike the other plans, this is not contained in statute, it's a budgetary thing. But the budget has permitted the Department of Corrections and YDOT to pick up all of the 8.6 employee part. So up till now, there's been no out-of-pocket cost for Department of Corrections and dispatchers in this plan. Local employers make their own decision. Mr. Chairman, I can summarize basically kind of what that situation is. There are 12 counties, the University of Wyoming, and 15 municipalities that emulate the state policy and pick up all of the employee contribution. Between the state of Wyoming, which is about 22.6% of the plan, and these local employers, another 29% of the plan, the 29 all pickup employers represent about 52% of the plan payroll and 52% of the plan employees, which is about 1,300, just over half. There are 15 municipalities that pick up 0 of the employee contribution. They play it straight up, 50-50. Now that represents about 10 or about 11% of plan payroll and about 11% of employees, about 275. And then there's another 30 employers that are in between. And they pick up varying components ranging from 1.6% to 7.9%, and that represents about 40% of the plan, and about 931,000 of the active employees. So the bill has come to you. I don't believe there were any amendments in the Senate, Mr. Chairman. So it comes to you straight as it was drafted. There have been some comments as we worked this with the Association of Counties, the State Patrol, and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, some of who can speak for themselves. But in generally, everybody understands, okay, we got to have a rate increase. We value the plan, but this is a lot all at once. 5%, 2.5% to employees. For state employees, this would result in a 2.5% reduction out of their pay. It's a pre-tax thing, so it wouldn't quite be 2.5% out of final pay, probably about 2/3 of it though. That's actually not unusual compared to other state employees. Yours truly is a member of the public employee plan, and we currently have out-of-pocket, unsubsidized, 3.68% out-of-pocket. The judicial plan is 3.65% out-of-pocket. The Warden and Patrol plan is 2.64%. So 2.5% compared to these other state employee populations is not unusual, but it is a big change all at once, and that's an issue. We have modeled some other issues. One could spread this out some. And Mr. Chairman, you have some flexibility to achieve the financial goals and spread it out. For example, if you, the bill as drafted gets us from 84% to 95% in 30 years. If you were to take that 5% increase and split it over 2 years, 2.5% starting 1 July 2024 and 2.5% 2025, yeah, that 1 year delay costs you a little bit, but not much. Instead of 95% funded, you'd be 94.4 according to the projections. So not a material impact. So if that was necessary to make this harsh medicine go down a little bit, to me, that seems to work, and Paul, you agree, right? There's some other models. For example, you could split it over 5 years. You could do 5 ones, 1%, 1%, 1%, and so on. That costs us a little bit of impact, but still you'd reach 91%. The plan would still have an upward trajectory instead of a declining trajectory, so even that's an option. Then there's a kind of a creative option. I should explain to everybody that 5% was the affordable result necessary to get the funding close to 100%, 95% as it turned out in 30 years. That's still a little slow. The actuarially determined rate contribution would be 6.21, not 5. So if you wanted to get to full funding even faster, perhaps in accordance with the board's funding policy, which would be about 24 years at this point, yeah, it needs to be 6.21. There are some scenarios that you could create that would be a 6% rate increase, close to the actuarial thing, but you spread it out more. 2%, 2%, and 2%. In the past, we have had some 3-year programs of rate increases. So that's also a possibility. The good thing on that one, this makes the actuaries smile a little bit, so smile. That would actually get the plan to 100 and arguably 101% funded in 30 years.
2, 2, 2,
So 222.
triple 2.
And we can do 111 for 6 years or things like that. And Paul has the tool up on his computer here. We can model anything that you'd
So
like us to
How
model.
much is the mean wage for the 2.5%?
Mr. Chairman, in this plan, the average salary for the law enforcement members is $74,582 a year at last report. The full 5% would be $3,729 if they picked it all up. If this plan only has them picking up half of it, so it would be about $1,865 per year, or about $155 per month for the average member.
How much was that per month?
I'm
165?
sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear the question.
155 per month?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
And to be clear, if we adopted it as is, what the state law enforcement personnel, such as correction officers, would experience would be $155 a month that they would be paying, that they're not paying now. And as a percentage, that's still less than your state pension, regular state employee, because they're paying 3.68%. This would just be 2.5%. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Stith, yes, sir, you have a good understanding.
Okay, go ahead. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I think I've summarized it unless subject to questions from you or the committee.
Did you look at any modifications to the plan as alternatives?
Mr. Chairman, we did. I can summarize some of the work of the Joint Committee back then, over the summer. Mr. Chairman, specifically, we modeled some benefit changes to the plan. There were 6 of them specifically that we modeled. Again, right now the provision is you can retire with 20 years service at any age, and normal retirement is age 50. So we looked at a rule of 70 with a minimum age of 50. A rule of 70 would be a combination of your age and years of service. That didn't help a whole lot by itself. We're at 84.3%. In 30 years, we'd be at 59%. Not a lot different than the status quo. Gained you a couple of percentage points. We looked at rule of 70, minimum age 55, rule of 75, age 50, and rule of 75, age 55. We looked at combining that with a lower multiplier. Instead of 2.5%, go to 2%. That one did save some money, but still the plan's on a projected downward trend. You're 84% now, you'd be at 69% in 30 years. We looked at rule of 75, minimum age 55, and lower that multiplier to 2%. That still resulted in a declining plan, although it didn't decline as fast. We go from 84% to 71%. Then we looked at numerous combination things. Well, let's reduce the benefit some, but let's increase the rate some. One example was to look at that rule of 75 and age 55 with a 2.5% rate increase. And this was a combination that really didn't gain any ground, but stabilized the plan. We'd be at 84% now, we'd be at 85% in 30 years, according to the projections. So there wasn't any single benefit reduction that kept the plan from declining. There were some combination scenarios that had a smaller rate increase with a couple that seemed to work. So those are possible, but in the end, it was decided to go with a rate increase, at least in the interim. And that's what's contained in the bill that has come from the Senate.
There's a follow-up question. On the existing plan, if we make no changes to benefits, if a person starts working for the Department of Corrections as a correctional officer at age 20, works for 20 years, retires at age 40, do they get their first retirement check when they turn 50, or do they get their first retirement check right away?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Stiff, under the provisions of the plan, there's no minimum age if they complete 20 years service. So they can retire with 20 years at any age, so that means they could start drawing their benefit at age 40. Or, you said, yeah, they entered age 20, they could retire and draw their benefit at age 40. When they really retire, they'll go do something else. Maybe they'll be a teacher or something, but yeah, that's the provision of the plan. So some of these benefit changes would change that. It says, okay, you can retire, but minimum age of 50. You would have to wait 10 years before you could draw that benefit.
Okay, go through the dollars. What's the appropriation?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the bill provides a sufficient appropriation to the executive branch to pay the employer's share of this, which is the 2.5% for state employees. And we believe that is a correct appropriation. It does not have an appropriation to have any more pickup of the employee part any more than what's currently being done. So the 2.5% would go to the affected state employees. And again, local employers would have to make their own decisions out of their own budgets in recognition of their own total compensation situations and labor agreements. But it is still a large ask even of a county budget for 2.5% just on the employer side, and they'll have to do that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in that case, what is the current cost to employers other than, the state employees, the local employees? And then what would be after this, when this is implemented?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harrison, I'm not sure I quite understood the question. You're asking what the current local decisions are for the employee subsidy?
Let me help clarify. What I'm trying to compare is what are they paying now as far as the employer share versus what they will be asked to pay after all said and done here?
Let's see if I've got that. No. You're asking how much money comes in contributions to the plan from all the employers? You've got another spreadsheet. What's the employer?
Mr. Chair, Representative Henderson, somewhere in the neighborhood of, right now, about $15 to $16 million in total from the employers, and then same with employee. That's across the entire plan, correct?
So the non-administrative impacts on the fiscal note, the 9.28, that's what the other employers are going to play? Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, we think that would come from all the employers per year.
Including the state?
Including the state. The state would be, on the employer side, about $1 million a year. And so I think the appropriations are correct, because $1 million per year is the biennium budget, so there's, $2 million, I think, in the bill.
So the annual total increase is around 4.15 or 4.19. So do you have a breakdown if people from those particular locations want to know how much it's going to cost their county?
Mr. Chairman, I do have that information, at least as reflects current practice. We, of course, don't know how an employer will take this new increase on.
Well,
but we know what they've done in the past.
Yeah, if they can continue their similar
Right.
practices. So can you email that to us?
Yes, it's in this report.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. In Bighorn County, we think this increase would be $110,000 a year total. We think, based on their past practice of subsidizing between the employer and employee, the county's going to pick up about 2/3 of it, and about 1/3 would go to the employee. And so it'd be about $38,000 to the employees and $71,000 per year to the employer. And so we have that for all the counties and cities. Again, that reflects their past practice, but it's a good indicator.
So perhaps one of the bigger questions may be, because there's a bigger component from the non-state funds, is will it be easier to budget in for counties and municipalities if we do this over a 3-year incremental basis versus a one-time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd offer that representatives are here that are probably better qualified to say that, but all based on my experience as a city finance officer in Idaho, absolutely. Smaller bites are easier for everybody.
Okay, any further questions for Dave before we have public comment come up and talk about it? Come on up. So Dave, I just want to make sure that we have all that information that you provided to us earlier, or when we did this in the interim. And if could you pull it out for wherever it is for me and put it on my desk? Okay. All right, just go ahead, whoever wants to go first.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Lee Livingston, Park County Commissioner, joined with, by Philip Shale from Hot Springs County, representing WCCA. The counties voted to support this. We did say it was begrudgingly, but we do support it. We know the importance of getting this fund whole and making sure that we protect the retirement for those retirees and those folks that are headed into it, that are our frontline protecting our communities. As Director Swindell mentioned, there are different counties handle it different municipalities handle it differently. Park County is 100%. We cover both sides. This would increase our contribution by about $166,000. They did provide a great memorandum on how this is going to impact counties and municipalities. But again, we do stand in support of it. We understand the need for it. It is a little bit disconcerting considering there might be some funding decrease headed towards counties depending on how property tax goes. To answer the good chairman's question, I believe, or I'm not sure if it was you or Representative Larson asked, would it be better for us to take it incrementally? And yes, it would be. It would be better if we had more years to implement this than to have it come down all in one chunk. Locally, we have not decided, my county, we haven't decided yet if we're going to continue the 100% match or if we're going to start asking our folks to pick up part of it. And with that, I would stand for any question.
Okay, go ahead. Welcome.
Thanks, Lee. Philip Shale from Hot Springs County, representing WCCA, and can provide a little bit of county information as well. Begrudgingly, the County Commissioners Association does support this because, as the director pointed out, pension benefits are a huge part of retention and recruitment of law enforcement. You know, those folks that carry a gun on our behalf are important to counties. We need to continue to do what we can for them. Unlike Park County, Hot Springs County does split the benefit with the employer. We pick up about 60%. The employee picks up the other 30%. It's going to cost us about $25,000 a year based on an additional. It's in your report. We got the same report that you guys are going to get. You can see all the county benefits there. We think this is an important thing for our law enforcement folks. There is maybe something that we did talk about. We had a Zoom conference with the director and his folks leading up to this. There is another option that maybe wasn't spelled out really clear. Maybe you could appropriate maybe another 20 or 30, $40 million into the deal and take care of it for all of us, but seems unlikely.
We could do a savings account for law enforcement. All right, Bob, go ahead.
Bob McLaurin with WAM, Kelly Krakow, with Mayor of Albin, Wyoming. Like our colleagues in the counties, we understand this is important and would ask that you spread it out as much as you can. We all remember the Fire Fund Day and what happened when we weren't on top of that. So we support the increase. It's a hard thing to take, but we understand it's important and would be willing to do the 2, 2, and 2 that the director spoke of earlier, but just gives us a chance to spread it out a little bit. So thank you very much.
Good. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee member. Again, Kelly Krakow here on behalf of Wyoming Association of Municipalities. I'm legislative chair. I just agree with what everybody said. It's something that's needed and something we need to do. So if you can spread it out, that would help us out. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay. Go ahead. Waltman.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, Josh Walther, Lieutenant Colonel for the Wyoming Highway Patrol. Yeah, we 100% support having a solvent or 100% funded system. What we do ask is, we just receive raises. First of all, we're small potatoes in this. This does not impact our sworn members. This is our dispatch only. We have the DCI Warden Patrol plan that covers our troopers. But our dispatchers are very important, as you guys have probably heard. We're at 50% staffing in our dispatch center, so any ding to them, to their pay right now, just kills them. So they received a decent raise. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
How big a raise did they get?
They were at $15 per hour a few years ago, then they moved to 17, now they're at 22.68 for starting pay. So we're starting to get more competitive. The concern here is taking any bit of that away from them is going to be detrimental.
How many dispatchers do you have?
Total at full staff, we have 47. That includes management, supervisors, trainers, and everyone. Actual dispatchers on the floor, probably 39 or 40. And we're half staff, mandatory overtime. So yeah, we just ask, and as you heard Director Swindell mention, there's no guarantee that the employee portion will be paid for this. So that could be a direct 2.5% hit to our dispatchers, which again would be huge to them. That's 57 cents per hour. So any bit hurts them right now. So we just ask, understanding that we don't want to interfere with the solvency of the system and making it closer to 100% funded down the road. But we just ask that either it's introduced incrementally or the percentage is lowered to take into consideration where their pay is today. We just saw an increase in applicant pool because of the raises, a small increase, and it's such a fine line with the pay. We're competitive today, but already there's other agencies that are ramping up their pay that can move a lot more quickly and are more nimble than the state. So we're leveraging it today. But it's going to, we're not going to stay on top of it with obviously the consideration for no phase 3 raises right now. We're going to end up in the slump again. So just ask that there's consideration be given to that and that the 2.5% maybe be reconsidered for a smaller amount or spread out over time.
Okay. Okay, who's online? We got
Alan Thompson?
Hello, Alan. Fire away.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My name is Alan Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. Our membership is greatly affected by this. 78% of the total members in this plan. And I would just like to echo the comments. Our organization begrudgingly supports this because we do need a solvent plan going forward. And, recruiting and retention is so very difficult in law enforcement right now. And we would just ask for favorable support in moving this forward. We understand that there's several different ways to get this accomplished, whether it be incrementally or the hard hit this year. And, we have no input in that whatsoever, other than we need to move forward with something that benefits our members in the long run. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So Alan, the question is, would you prefer 5.5% one time or 2 + 2 + 2?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't been able to poll our members, but you're looking at the people that write our checks in the room. I think we would be on board with the incremental process, however that breaks down. If it's 1 + 1 for 6 years, if it's 2 + 2 for 3 years, any way that we can get this done so that in 30 years we're on a better track for solvency, we would support that. And I believe that our members individually would support incremental better than a hard hit immediately.
Questions for Alan? Okay, thanks. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think we do have an offer to maybe crunch some numbers. And so while we're still debating this, I'm wondering if we could look at what a 1.8% over 3 years, so a total of 5.4% would do to that 30-year projection.
We'll work it out.
So remind me, Dave, if it's 2, 2, and 2, that's 6%, but it gets us basically the same place as the 5.5.
Gets us more and quicker.
Yeah.
101%.
Mr. Chairman, it gets you a little more. It gets you to 100, almost 101% in 30 years instead of 95.
Okay.
And it's the benefit of getting a little closer to the ADC of 6.21. But 5% was the number to, get it to the mid-90s.
Okay, any other public comment? Any other public comment? Close public comment. Motion on the bill.
Second.
Moved by Representative Walters, second by Representative Larson.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll have an answer and then I'll have a motion. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Representative Sherwood, so moving to the 1.8% per year for 3 years, we top out at a rate that's about 5.4% higher than what we're at today. Puts us in the neighborhood of the upper 90% funded, so around 98% funded in 30 years.
And that's at 1 point what?
1.8.
5 point, 1 point.
It's a total of 5.4% over 3 years.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to amend the bill to be 2% per year over 3 years, 2, 2, and 2. And I will, I'll work with our secretary to get the drafting correct on that.
Okay. Everyone understand the motion?
And
Just-
discussion on it. The reason I
Yeah.
do that is it spreads it out, it lessens the initial blow, and then it also gets us to over 100% funding in 30 years instead of 85% shy of 100% fully funded in 30 years. I just think it, for less pain, we end up in a better position than we do with what's in place. That's my justification.
Mr. Chairman.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman, so are there any other plans or bills where we target more than 100%?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, purpose behind trying to get over the 100% is that's what the quote is kicking. That's the goal on all of these plans, is to get up off of that retirees.
Or one time, 13 payments, but 98% is the equivalent, and you can slow it down. So that, to me, the question is, do we do 5.4 versus 2? Because it's just a little bit less expensive.
Mr. Chairman, so for that discussion, I'll see if there's a just a friendly amendment of taking this to 1.8% over 3 years, so that's 54%, projected to get us to 98% in 30 years, or for conversation.
Comments?
Thank you. I don't know that it's enough of a savings to the employer or the employee just by not getting that 100% over 100% at the same time. So I just would stick with the two.
Well, if it was 5.5%, that would probably get us to 100. If 5.4 got us to 98.
Mr. Chair, I mean, you know, we're talking 30-year projections here, so, yeah, so, yeah, I wouldn't.
It's probably only a 5-year swag.
Question.
So I kind of like going to the 5.4 or the 5.5 versus, it's just a little bit cheaper. I mean, if we can do it, why wouldn't we do it? So I would enter.
Vote it down, let's try that next.
Well, I'll make an amendment to the amendment to make it 5.5. No, it's 1.85, or it would be basically, right?
The modeling that we discussed was 1.80 per year for 3 years, a total of 5.4% increase over the status quo.
So I'd move 1.8. What's the difference in the cost then? I mean, what is the 0.2%? What's the benefit?
Let's see.
About 9 million.
It's like going shopping for clothes. If you pay $9.95,
Yeah.
it's a lot cheaper than paying $10.
Mr. Chairman, the actuary, of course, will tell us for sure, but to me, it looks like it'd be, from the $155, they'd be paying $12.40 less, but the actuary can give us the real numbers. We'll see how close I was.
So that would be, is that per year or per month, your calculation?
Mr. Chairman, all I did was I took the $155 per month, which is 2.5%. I divided that by 25 and then times it by 2 to get to 0.2. So it's $12.40.
Nice.
So Clark, was that per month or per year, what your number?
Per month, making the assumption that
So times 100, that's $120, $140 a year difference.
Mr. Chairman, correct.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chair, I think that we're in the right neighborhood here. So for every, you know, that 0.05%, it's about $37 a year. So if you go from 1.8 to 1.85, it's an additional $37 a year for a person, and the average person.
Well, that's just going 1.8 to 1.85. So, yeah, so that's, yeah. So if you go to 2, from 8 to 2, you chase that times 4, so that's $120, right? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I will add that I think when we were talking earlier, we were talking about a 2.5% increase on $74,000. So it's roughly $1,850 a year. So now under this new proposal, that would be 2.7%, so that it would actually be a little bit higher than what we had talked about earlier. So instead of the $1,850, it would be.
Cumulative impact.
Yeah.
Initial impact small.
Yep. So about just under $2,000 a year when this is fully phased in for the average law enforcement person.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure. So we are talking about phasing it. impact to the paycheck at the end of the day is lower, but it's spread out over a 6-year period. 3-year period.
It's actually higher.
It's higher.
You're asking for a little more money than 5%, 5.4 total when fully implemented, but you're correct that it's spread out and the initial bite is easier to swallow.
So, yeah, I think just to save these guys a little bit of money, I think we do 1.8, we're basically in the same place. So that's my amendment to the amendment versus 2.
Question on the amendment,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Which amendment did we have?
We're going to Trey's idea.
Oh, I thought Bob just put another amendment.
His amendment was identical.
Well, the motion is for 222, that the amendment is to change that to 1.8, 1.8, 1.8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
That motion carries. Back to the amendment, as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Okay. Any other amendment, any other discussion?
Question on the bed.
Roll call as amended.
Representative Henderson?
Aye.
Representative Larson?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Stith?
Aye.
Representative Walters?
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer?
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas?
Aye. So, Clark, you want to present this on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to, and happy to hear that my calculation was $148 and yours was $150, so thank you very much.
Okay. Pull it out, re-referral, if we want to. Let's see what it is first.
It's the WWNRT large cat project, shouldn't take.
It's in this.
Okay. I wonder why Bob was sitting back there, waiting on me, huh? Okay. Tell us about your money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you Senate File Number 60, and it is the Wyoming Wildlife and Natural Resource Trust Fund large projects. Fortunately, last year, we raised the large project threshold from 200,000 to 400,000, so we don't have a whole lot of projects, just 3 with that new threshold, and Bob will take over the explanation of the projects.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Budd, Director, Wildlife Natural Resource Trust. There are 3 large projects this year. As you're aware, these are all coming out of the revenue that is gained on the trust fund. There's no general fund or other funds involved. They are all large landscape projects. The Upper Grable Fish Passage should get us to a completion there, which reconnects hundreds of miles of spawning habitat for native fish. That's important when you look at potential challenges under the Endangered Species Act. It's a retrofit of a number of irrigation structures and stream habitat improvement, which will also preclude predatory fish from impacting the native cutthroat trout. Estimate is it'll save 20 to 48,000 fish per year from entrainment in irrigation systems. Also improves their irrigation efficiency and benefits that livestock operators that are up there. The second is Baggs Valley Headwaters 3. This became a large project because it crossed that threshold. This is down in the southern part of the state. It's a rangeland enhancement project, primarily benefits mule deer, sage grouse, and Columbia sharp-tailed grouse, but also elk, moose, and antelope. It's a removal of invasive conifers. It's a treatment of Gannibal oak, which can take an area over and become a monoculture. And it's a retroactive treatment on aspen to generate more of those when they become stagnant. You can treat them by cutting them and they'll actually generate numerous sprouts per acre, as many as 2,000 or 3,000 per acre. It is, that one is on about 30,000 acres under this phase of the project, but it's now up to about 150,000 acres total. There's also a component in this which will treat invasive annual grasses, primarily cheatgrass, and there's some sagebrush enhancement as well.
Where is Bag Valley?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Where is it? Bag Valley?
Basically, Mr. Chairman, if you go up to Aspen Alley and drop down into Savory and Dixon, it's that entire landscape coming off to the west side there. And it goes north up to about Muddy Creek. So it's a massive landscape, and it's just a little bit at a time. Again, we can do about 30 to 60,000 acres a year, and it's on all land ownerships. The final of the projects is the Seminole Shirley habitat. This again is a continuation of work that's been done. This one is funded in part by, you'll all recall, the Rocky Mountain Power Mitigation Fund that you created 2 years ago. They have funded this one in a large way. It's also funded by private landowners, federal funds, and others. This is a comprehensive project. It includes riparian restoration primarily through what are called Z-dike structures, which go into small gullies, get them to stabilize. That creates small seeps and springs throughout that landscape. There's some water development. There's fence modification because there are pretty significant wildlife movements through here, mule deer and antelope. There's also treatment of invasive conifers and sagebrush restoration. This is a hotspot for sage grouse in the state. There are a lot of them out there, and they're doing great. Other grassland birds, but it's a comprehensive. This is again about 60,000 acres. That landscape right now is up to about 320,000 acres of prime habitat for a number of wildlife species. Sponsors are the Little Snake River Conservation District and Wyoming Game and Fish Department, and we have a number of other co-sponsors in here, but those are the primary sponsors of these three. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of those or anything else.
You're gonna be spending most of your time spraying anyway.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct, and we're already getting rolling on that. We had a meeting yesterday to talk about priorities, so.
Go ahead.
Bob, on your Seminole Shirley habitat, just so that we can reinforce that section on our budget bill on the Rocky Mountain mitigation component of this, that works there because of their impacts with their wind projects, and this will probably end those funds in that account. Is that right? Do we expect them to have any more left at the end of this biennium?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. Co-Chairman Larson, that money has all been allocated. All of the Rocky Mountain Power Mitigation Funds have been allocated. I hope to have those all spent by, probably won't make it by the end of this biennium, but certainly by the next biennium, those will be completely gone.
What percent, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is what percent on this is Rocky Mountain?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, about 25%.
Okay, thanks. Of the remaining funds that are still in the account? Or how would I say that?
Well, so, Mr. Chairman,
25% of this project, I understand.
25% of this project, it's about 12.5% of the total that was allocated through those mitigation funds.
Thank you.
That was about 9 million, and this is about 1 million of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
For clarification, how are these treatments applied? How involved is the application process?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I understand the question, Representative.
Well, in these projects, you mentioned treatments. I'm asking how do you do them?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Representative, there are all different ways. So if you look at the work that is done in that Baggs Valley headwaters, the treatment on invasive conifers and on aspen is hand cutting. So it's sawing them down and either piling and burning. We don't like, normally we prefer to jackstraw those so that they're out there and they preclude herbivory on those when they're growing up. On sagebrush and on some of your other shrubs, if you can get to them while they're small enough, such as gamble oak, it's a mowing process. There's a head on, I'd love to take you out and show you. There's a head on an excavator that basically just grinds them down. You have aerial application if it's on invasive annuals, primarily aerial application so that you can get large areas and it reduces your cost. Some of this is by hand. If when you get back into secondary, tertiary treatment, it'll be hand treatment, basically with a four-wheeler and a spray unit, that sort of thing. But we've even used pack horses to spray in places like Teton County and Park County.
So Bob, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you done any homework on the little bill that's circulating about, what is it, the jackass or big ass mules? Mammoth jack.
Mr. Chairman, I have some experience with mammoth jacks when I was a guide, and they are very big and they are very aggressive. I'm not quite sure that bill, and I'm just speaking candidly, I'm not sure that would pass muster with federal courts, but.
Well, we need to know that.
I'm sorry?
Could you find that out? I mean, the Senate should know that.
I will follow up on that, Mr.
I
Chairman.
think it's pretty important. We don't want to do something stupid.
I agreed.
And Mr. Chairman, we should put a government brand on each one of those animals.
Bucking horse.
Something to identify them as our property.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, any public comment? See no, we'll close public comment. Moved by Representative Larson, second by Representative Walters, so do pass. Roll call.
Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stiff.
Aye.
Representative Walters. Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
So, is Sandy gonna present that, or just? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Chairman Nicholas, I didn't hear your vote.
Aye.
Did you? Aye, okay, thank you.
And the question is, do we have, so committee, I think we're gonna meet Monday. Yeah, we can adjourn. We're gonna meet